Every day, cattlemen and women do all they can to provide the very best possible care for their land and their animals. They do so because they're committed to protecting and improving their natural resources and leaving a strong legacy for the next generation. Today, we're highlighting one of the 2020 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's take you to Colorado now to meet the Region 5 Award winner.
Steve Wooten and his family are moving their Red Angus cattle through the red rocks of Beatty Canyon Ranch in southeastern Colorado. This 27,000-acre cow-calf operation has been in Steve's family for generations.
This ranch was purchased by my great-grandfather in 1929, and our family has been there 4 generations for Joy and I, and we're fortunate to have the 5th and 6th generations on the ranch with us, and our daughter, son-in-law, and our grandchildren.
The Wootens were early adopters of conservation practices. They've had to be, since this part of Colorado receives fewer than 14 inches of moisture each year.
This is beautiful land where we live, but it has some challenges. Water is essential, and it's very sparse and hard to come by in this country.
The land in southeast Colorado where we live is fairly rough. It's semi-arid. We have periods of rain, and then we have periods of drought.
We're in an environment where we've got a lot of cactus, we've got minimal growth of forages, and we have to plan continuously how we can stockpile those forages against an area that doesn't have an abundant moisture.
With limited water and grass, Steve and Joy realized that a low stocking rate and good fences would allow them to rotate their cattle frequently, giving pastures a longer time to rest after grazing.
We now have 36 pastures that we can rotate cattle through so that the majority of the ranch during the growing season, the cattle aren't on it.
The reason why we rest the pasture is that when the cows go through the ranch and then the pasture gets rain on it, then it will grow grass and then the cows come back to that pasture. So it's kind of a full circle.
We've been able to improve our drought resistance through pasture management. By being able to have more rest in our pastures, grow more forage for next year by not having cattle in there, lets us go year over year without having to make drastic management decisions.
Steve closely monitors and measures the available forage, and the challenge to provide sufficient water to the cattle is always top of mind.
It's super important to have water on each of these pastures, and we have a pipeline system that runs from a pump, and it's running several miles to water all the cows in the pastures.
Putting tanks and strategically placing tanks in different areas of the pasture have allowed the cows to go and graze areas that predominantly they might not have grazed because there was no water. Also, by spreading the water out, you don't get a heavy impact in one certain area.
Another concern has been the impact of invasive plant species. In fact, several pastures and riparian areas required extensive work after years of harmful encroachment.
Tamarisk had completely dominated the riparian zone of the river, so we took on projects and worked with partners to eradicate the tamarisk on us. The other element that's been encroaching over hundreds of years due to fire suppression is pinyon juniper. We noticed in the 90s that we were about half stocked on a lot of our pastures that were heavily encroached by juniper. So over the years we've been slowly using mechanical means to clear the juniper out of those deep soils that should be predominantly grass, but still leaving plenty of juniper for wildlife, for birds, and for soil holding in areas where erosion is prone.
That is amazing to see the after effects after you clear the pasture and how much you gain back the grass. You're gaining acres back, the grazable acres.
It's not always just talking the talk, but putting their money where their mouth is, and they do it, with their own boots on the ground. It takes time, it's not easy, especially with as many things as Steve and Beatty Canyon is a part of, but it's still important, and they make the time to do it.
Beatty Canyon Ranch is home to a diverse wildlife population, and the family's management practices are aimed at improving the health of the range so both cattle and wildlife can thrive.
The things we've done to improve the land and the water, we've seen great improvement in the wildlife. We've seen more deer and bighorn sheep and turkey.
At Beatty Canyon Ranch, stewardship and conservation is in their DNA, and the Wooten and Burnham families work together to carry forward a legacy that has lasted for generations.
I love what I do because it fills my heart. It gives me great pride to see my kids and my parents all together.
I don't ever wake up in the morning and not appreciate where I live. And just truly blessed to be here and to be part of this family and this operation. I do feel there's some big shoes to fill, but I'm willing to take up the challenge and carry on the legacy of the ranch and the family and pass it on to the 6th generation.
It's the best life to be with your kids and to be in the great outdoors and to see God's creation every day. The land is everything to us. It's who we are.
To say that I love this land is even not enough of an expression of how we feel about this, how blessed we are that the Lord has put us in this position where we can be here, we can grow our family here, that we can leave a legacy behind.
Now, if you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners, see photos and videos, or even learn how to nominate someone for this award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org.